The clatter of the mail hitting the kitchen counter was a sound I usually ignored. It was a Tuesday, the same routine as always. I was home early, which was rare these days, a consequence of a demanding project at work finally winding down. I'd grabbed a beer from the fridge, ready to unwind, when I saw her. Sarah walked in, the late afternoon sun catching the gold of a necklace I'd never seen before. It wasn't delicate, not like the simple silver chain I'd given her for our anniversary. This was bold, almost flamboyant, with a thick, woven design and a pendant that looked like a small, stylized sun. She'd always had a subtle elegance, a quiet grace. The necklace, it seemed, it was trying too hard. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual, like it was any other Tuesday evening. "Oh, hi," she said, a little too brightly, a little too quickly, her hand instinctively moving to touch the necklace. "New necklace. Do you like it?" "It's different," I replied, studying it, my gaze drifting back to her eyes. They held a nervous energy that wasn't there before. It was a flicker, almost imperceptible, but after years of living together, I knew her tells. And that look, it was a blaring siren. My eyes dropped to the counter, where the mail sat, scattered. And that's when I saw it, the credit card bill. It was face down, but even the small sliver of the top of the statement revealed the name. S. Dubois Jewelers. I knew her maiden name. I did all the finances. That was new. Her face drained of color, the bright blush from earlier completely gone, replaced by a pallid, sickly hue. The room felt instantly colder, every sound amplified, the hum of the refrigerator, the clock ticking on the wall. "What's wrong?" I asked, my voice deceptively calm. My heart was beginning to hammer against my ribs, each beat a painful reminder of the trust I'd so readily given, the trust that was now so obviously shattered. "Nothing," she stammered, avoiding my eyes, her hand still clutched at the necklace. "Just tired." Tired. That was her go-to excuse for everything. Tired of what? I pressed, my voice hardening. "Tired of our life, Sarah. Is that what it is?" She flinched, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for an escape route. "Don't be ridiculous," she finally said, her voice a shaky whisper. "It's just a necklace." The problem wasn't the necklace, and we both knew it. The problem was the lie, the betrayal. I could have exploded. I could have screamed, accused, demanded answers. But something held me back. Maybe it was a need for control, maybe it was the desire to watch her squirm. Maybe, deep down, a part of me wanted proof, wanted to hear the words come from her own mouth. I walked over to the counter, picked up the bill, and looked at the total. It was exorbitant, more than a necklace should ever cost. I carefully examined the charges, looking for another explanation, something that could pull us from the brink of this chaos. But there was nothing, just the name of the jeweler and the outrageous sum of money. "This isn't just a necklace, is it, Sarah?" I asked, my voice low and dangerous. Her eyes welled with tears, a performance I knew by heart, a well-rehearsed tactic to deflect blame. But this time, I wasn't playing along. This time, she couldn't manipulate me with her crocodile tears. She started, her voice barely a breath. "Don't even bother," I said, cutting her off, the coldness in my voice surprising even me. I needed a minute. I walked outside. I paced in the backyard, the carefully manicured lawn now a blur of green beneath my feet. The anger, a bitter, poisonous thing, coiled in my gut. But it was quickly replaced by something colder, something more calculated. This wasn't about yelling and screaming, or a messy public breakup. This was about something far more precise, far more satisfying. I'd always been the practical one, the steady hand in our relationship. Sarah, she was the dreamer, the free spirit, the one who got caught up in the moment. Now, that tendency was going to be her downfall. I went back inside, a ghost of a smile playing on my lips. Sarah was still standing where I'd left her, her tears now silent, her face pale and drawn. I walked past her as if she was air, grabbing my laptop from my office and pulling up the shared online banking statement. Her phone was on the couch, open to a messaging app. She'd left it on the screen. Her conversations were with someone named Luke. It all made sense. The late nights, the excuses, the constant need to be somewhere else. The next few weeks were a masterclass in acting. I was the epitome of the understanding, forgiving husband. I asked her about her day, listened intently as she babbled about trivialities, even suggested we go out for a nice dinner. All the while, I was quietly collecting evidence, documenting her lies, building my case. I didn't go out of my way to find these things, they simply presented themselves. She'd left receipts in coat pockets, sent the occasional text at the dinner table, and even left a second phone in her gym bag. I didn't confront her. I didn't ask her to confess. Instead, I became her confidant, listening to her fabricated stories, knowing the truth all along. I even complimented her on the necklace, joking about how it suited her. I watched her squirm, her lies becoming more and more convoluted. She didn't suspect a thing. She was too busy trying to justify her betrayal, to navigate the treacherous web of lies she'd so carelessly spun. I spent my nights researching divorce laws, gathering financial documentation, speaking to lawyers, and meticulously planning my next move. It wasn't impulsive, it wasn't fueled by anger. It was cold, methodical, and precise. It was a chess game, and I was about to checkmate. The day arrived when I had everything I needed. All the financial statements, the text messages, the receipts, the lawyer's guidance, and a plan. I made a reservation at her favorite restaurant, the same one where she'd told me she loved me for the first time. Sarah was beaming, she clearly thought we had turned a corner and our issues were a thing of the past. She was dressed impeccably, her necklace glittering under the restaurant lights, a silent symbol of her betrayal. Over dinner, I told her about my work project finally finishing. I described the future I saw for us, a future where she would be happy, she would finally feel like she had the space she always craved. And then, I calmly laid out the truth. I didn't shout, I didn't cry, I simply presented her with the evidence. I showed her the credit card statements, the text messages, the photos I'd managed to capture. I outlined the legal proceedings, the financial implications, and the life she was about to embark on without me. Her face was a mask of shock and disbelief. She tried to deny, to deflect, but the evidence was irrefutable. It was all there, plain and simple. I watched as the color drained from her face, as the realization of her actions finally sank in. I had taken her power away, reduced her to a child caught with her hand in the cookie jar. I don't understand how you found out, she whispered, her voice trembling. It doesn't matter, I said, my voice cold and detached. What matters is that I did. And now, our game is over. I presented her with the divorce papers, already drafted by my lawyer. I'd taken everything into account, ensuring I was protected and she wasn't. I'd calculated exactly the extent of her foolish behavior. There was no negotiation. There was no room for argument. I was not here to settle, I was here to end this marriage. She was finally faced with the consequences of her actions. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and regret, the tears now genuine. I'm sorry, she sobbed, her voice cracking. I'm so sorry. Your sorries mean nothing now, I said, my voice devoid of emotion. You had your chance to be honest, but you chose lies. You built a house on sand, and now it's all collapsing. I finished my meal, the taste of victory bittersweet on my tongue. I paid the bill, and stood up to leave. As I walked toward the door, I could hear her whimpering behind me, a pathetic sound that did little to soothe the ache in my heart. I left her there, in her favorite restaurant, alone, with the ruins of her choices. I walked out into the night, finally free from the weight of her betrayal, my own burden lifted at last. The necklace, that gaudy symbol of her dishonesty, would be a constant reminder of her mistake, but it was no longer my problem. It never was. It was always hers. The next few weeks were a blur of legal proceedings, paperwork, and moving. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I took the house, the car, the accounts, and made sure she got what she was legally entitled to, nothing more. She tried to contact me, to apologize, but I blocked her number and email, cutting off all ties. One day, while sorting through some boxes, I found a small, velvet pouch. Inside was the simple silver chain I'd given her years ago. It was tangled, slightly tarnished, but it held a strange power, a reminder of a time when things were different. I held it in my hand, the memory of our past a ghost of what could have been, of what should have been. I didn't feel sadness anymore, I only felt peace. I placed it back in the box, a chapter closed, a new one beginning. I had survived, I had rebuilt, and I had learned a valuable lesson. I would never allow myself to be manipulated again. My revenge was not only for myself, but for the trust and love I had so foolishly given, for the sanctity of our vows that had been so carelessly broken. The real victory wasn't the financial gain or legal triumph, it was the knowledge that I had emerged from the ashes, stronger and more resilient. And that, I knew, was the most satisfying revenge of all.